Hi, everyone out there in Supernal viewer land. Wonderful to have you back with us again. And wonderful today to be talking once more to our very, very special Dr. Samir Osmanagich. Dr. Sam, he's here again, and to remind everyone, he is the author of 22 books. He has published enormous amounts of peer review studies on pyramids around the world. He is a scientist, a researcher of over 40 years. He is an anthropologist in his doctorate, and he has an extraordinary complex called the Bosnian Pyramid Complex in Bosnia. And he is the discoverer of that in this lifetime. He's known as the discoverer of the Bosnian pyramids. And he's just, Dr. Sam's a wizard extraordinaire. So we are so grateful to have you back with us today, Dr. Sam. Welcome.
I'm happy to be back, Leah.
Good stuff. And I'm excited today because we're going to be talking about your home environment, about the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and also the multidisciplinary approach to the evolution of the site. So, Dr. Sam, how did you remind us all, how did you first come across the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun?
When I'm thinking about my life and the Bosnian pyramids and what was before that, it is so obvious that every one of us has a destiny. We are here for a reason in this specific lifetime, and we have abilities, and it's up to us if we are going to really completely use them, if we use our abilities to our full potential. And I turn back the last few decades and looking for it. For me, it's so obvious that some invisible hand was taking me from place to place, to life careers, business and research, becoming financially independent, first doing my research on the Mayan pyramids, which later on became my Ph.D. dissertation, and then expanding my research to the pyramids around the planet, Peru, Bolivia, China, Indonesia, Egypt, of course, Sudan, Canary, Mauritius, and then coming to my home country. At that time, back in 2005, 2 decades ago, I used to live in Houston, Texas. And I didn't have a really desire to go back, especially not to live back in Bosnia, because I had my business there, my life. But I came to Bosnia in April of 2005. I had my book promotions at the Sarajevo International Book Fair. And people who were there, some of them were from town of Visoko, small town in central Bosnia, and they invited me to visit the local museum. I said, fine. I said, Visoko is really on my way, because those times I was researching another prehistorical phenomenon, the stone spheres, stone balls. I said, okay, I'm going to stop by for a couple of hours. So I did stop by, saw the museum, but then I saw also this elevation, which everybody called a natural hill, because it was covered by soil, vegetation, and forest was planted back in 1960s and 1970s. But I could clearly see the regular pyramidal geometry. Could see one triangular face. I was driving around. I could see another one and the corners, 1, 2, 3, 4. I said to myself, well, this is shaped like a 4-sided pyramid. I asked my friends to take me to the top of that elevation. They said, well, in the Middle Age, there was a small fortress there, but there is nothing now. It's been, ruined. I said, it doesn't matter, let's go to the top. So we went to the top, and it was 7 of us. And other people were talking about the time from the Middle Age when Bosnia was an independent kingdom, and people from all over the Europe were coming to Bosnia, freely discussing philosophy and the history and religions and stuff like that, which was amazing because in the Middle Age, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th century, that was the era where the Inquisition ruled. They would not allow the freedom of expression. Bosnia was really not dark age. Bosnia was age of light, and exactly around the pyramid. So while they're talking about the medieval Bosnia, I'm at the top, I'm looking around the valley. I said, okay, let me see if there is another geometrical anomaly. And indeed, across the valley, I was looking at it. There was another hill with the triangular faces, terrace on the top. I took the compass. Compass showed me that the sides are oriented to the cardinal points, east, west, north, south. And the one that I'm standing on, the same thing, cardinal points. Now, traveling the world, like China, you have pyramids all covered by soil vegetation, but perfect orientation to the cardinal points. Indonesia, Egypt, all Egyptian pyramids, perfect cosmic north, geographical north, location of the northern star. Peru, the same thing. So I said to myself, hey, we have those two elements. We have a regular geometry, 4 triangular faces, 4 corners, and we have the side orientation. Mother Nature does not make hills with the 4 sides, 4 triangular faces, 4 corners at 90 degrees, and perfect side orientation, but intelligent hands. However, we have been programmed in schools to think when somebody says pyramid, we are thinking Egypt, desert, pharaohs, tombs. Let's forget that. The pyramids are artificial construction with the geometry of most common is 4-sided pyramid with the perfect side orientation and other elements, artificial construction material, quartz crystal, and the water, and inner passageways, and the chambers, and with other structures, we have elements of sacred geometry and so on. So I knew that. So I was at the time deprogrammed. So I said to myself, this is an artificial structure, which after thousands of years got covered by soil, vegetation. You got the wind, you got the dust, and the soil, and the seeds, and the rain, and vegetation. Exactly the same scenario like in China, Indonesia, and especially in Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize. Of course, the pyramids in Egypt, they are south from us. In our case, in the northern hemisphere, south means warmer. So Egypt is south, sunny, it's a desert, no rain, no greenery. Peru is south, no rain, no greenery. But Bosnia, Mexico, China, rain, yes, greenery, a lot. So that was the beginning. That was back in April of 2005. And while I was at the top of the pyramid, I interrupted my friends and I told them, gentlemen, do you know that we are standing on the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, and across the valley is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon? Wow, now those people are looking at me. What is he talking about? On one hand, I'm giving statement that we are on the top of the artificial structure, and he even gave the names to those 2 structures. And secondly, they were at my lecture that I, promoted 3 books. One of them was about the Mayan civilization, another one, Anasazi civilization in the US. And the third one was called Civilizations Before Beginning of the Official History. Official history being 5,000-6,000 years. So I was telling them the names. Why? Because I could see now 2 pyramids. If they come in pairs, like in Mexico, Guatemala, Peru, Bolivia, they call them Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Moon. But there are dozens of pyramids of suns and moons. I said to myself, well, let me add something that will make this pyramid unique. Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Not Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's a very long name, but Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, it makes sense for me. So this is how I named them at the time. 6 months later, I realized why I did that. Namely, we were watching the movement of the sun on the horizon. As the sun moves, the shadow of the Bosnian pyramid of the sun, which is triangular, of course, the shadow moves in the valley. And in the mid of summer, just before the sunset, this shadow completely covers the moon pyramid. So in a symbolical way, the message from the builders is the rule of the sun and the day is over, and the rule of the night and the moon starts. It's a connection, sun and the moon, astronomical connection. But not only astronomical, later on with the people who are very sensitive, spiritual people, they started telling me, hey, the sun pyramid, it has such a strong male energy. Then they were going to the moon pyramid. Oh, it's such a nice and, sophisticated and emotional female energy. Now, suddenly, now you have male and the female. Now, it were all coming to the place. It all started making a lot of sense when it comes to the names.
Hang on a second. Let's just back that up, because you stood there and you went, oh, this is the sun and this is the moon. So you intuitively knew that. So
That is correct.
So
I mean, listen, we have conscious level, we have subconscious, we have something that is in our blood, in our genes, so stronger than me. After naming them, these people are looking at me. What is he talking about? What pyramid structures? It's impossible. Pyramids are in Egypt. Well, I said, listen. Then I remembered that in my third book about the civilizations before the start of the official history, there was a picture of the Sun Pyramid in Mexico, in Teotihuacan. And when we were approaching the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun from the western entrance, I mean, it so much reminded me to the Mexican pyramid. I told them, listen, let's go to my car. I'm going to show you something. So you're climbing down, you're going to the car, I'm opening the trunk, and then I'm getting this book. And it was just, finished printing, so you could even smell that print, the color. I didn't know which page was that Mexican pyramid, so I just opened it seldomly. Or that's what I thought. And the page was 108. 108, 1 plus 8 is 9, 9 is divine number. And exactly on that particular page, there is a picture of the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. I'm looking at it, then I'm rotating the book for 180 degrees, and in front of us is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun and the Mexican, the shape exactly the same. Wow, how they were stunned. Andrea, you know how in our lives sometimes we see some things and we see, wow, this is amazing, this is so big. But then we go somewhere else, we don't have the time for that, and then we forget about it. But of course, I was going back to Houston, but I said to myself, this is so big. I should stay on it. I should not forget about it. So from Houston, I'm writing a letter to the Ministry of Culture, asking them for the permission for the preliminary research. As the physical person, I got approved because I was paying, I had a project, I was paying for the equipment, I was paying for some vendors. So we were doing geological core drilling, archaeological trenches, lab analysis in August of 2005. Everything we did, anomaly, anomaly, anomaly. I wrote the book, and the published date was October 25th. And by then I was ready. I called the press conference in the city of Sarajevo, came back from Houston, and I'm announcing to the world that the pyramids in Europe are discovered. The biggest, because I could see how huge this pyramid was, and since it was covered by soil, clay, vegetation for a very long time, I said most probably more than 12,000 years. That was my hypothesis. A lot of interest by media, soon CNN at the time, 20 years back, CNN was like respected media. Today is just the propaganda. CBS, ABC, ZDF, BBC, or other media outlets from Italy, from Russia, from different countries. They came to my press conference It was really big news in 2005. And I received 12,000 emails of support from all over the world. However, in the newspapers, at that time, the newspapers were still around without all this social media. I started reading statements from the archaeologists, geologists, museums, historians from Bosnia, later on from Croatia and Serbia and UK, US. They were saying it's impossible, we don't have pyramids in Bosnia. Well, I went to the Department of Archaeology at the University of Sarajevo, talking to their senior archaeologists, and I offered them a cooperation. I said, listen, these are the proofs I have so far. Why don't we join the forces and collaborate and start investigating this pyramid? The answer I got was disappointing. The guy told me, listen, we know every square meter of Bosnia, we have no pyramids. After 20 years back in Bosnia, I can only say that we don't know 90% what is below the forest and the soil. We don't. Not only in Bosnia, in Croatia, in Germany, in Italy, and elsewhere. So many cultural layers. I said, fine. I went to the National Museum. I offered them cooperation. And this woman told me, we've never had pharaohs in Bosnia. Therefore, we cannot have pyramids. Then I realized that this is people, who live in the 19th century. They have no clue about the modern, pyramid science. I said, fine. So I established non-profit, non-government foundation for the archaeological and scientific research and archaeological tourism, because I had to think how to finance ourselves, under the name Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation, and announced that the next spring 2006, we're going to start excavation process. And a couple of months later, before I went back to Bosnia, I received the news that the State Institute for Geodesy, with the 3 engineers of geodesy, went to the site without even, informing me. Went to the site, they took their scientific instruments, and they've done measurements of the side orientation. And their conclusion was, remember, this is the State Institute. Their conclusion was that the northern face of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun has an error from perfect north of 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and 12 seconds. It was so precise, unbelievably precise. The Great Pyramid of Egypt, 0 degrees and 3 minutes. It's still excellent, but Bosnian was more precise. Now, how did they achieve that? If you have 0 degrees error, that's really nothing. 3 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, this is so minor. But 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and imagine Egyptian pyramids is 231 meters long, 0.3, amazing. Bosnian is more than 1 kilometer, more than 1,015 meters long, and it's a 0.012. We cannot do that today. So I got that before I came back in April to start digging. So that was a big support for us. I got some more analysis from good intentional people, some experts, geophysicists. They were doing some satellite analysis, geothermal analysis. They said not only the sun and moon pyramids show geothermal anomalies. They lose the heat quicker than the natural hills. Why? Because of the chambers and passageways. Not only those 2, but there are 3 more. So eventually we got 5 pyramids, Pyramid of the Sun, Moon, plus Dragon, Earth, and Love, and plus 1 more. A few years back, we established that we have the 6th pyramid, so 6 pyramids. And, we started digging. And just before we started, archaeologists from Bosnia, they signed petition, 23 of them, asking the Bosnian government to stop digging, even before we started. They said we were going to destroy the known archaeological sites. What sites? You are in a forest on some remote hills. We don't know what we are doing. We have no experience, blah, blah, blah. Well, in April, we started and the Bosnian prime minister came. And when we started, just 1 meter below the soil, on 20 different sections, we were discovering blocks, rectangular, square, one on top of each other, like 4 layers. Obviously, it was a structure. So the prime minister is coming, he's looking at it, said, wow, what is this? This is a concrete. How come we have concrete here? You know what? Don't worry what these archaeologists are saying. Keep digging, because he could see rivers of people pouring to the side, wanting to see what's going on. So much excitement and so much enthusiasm. Of course, without the money, without the government funds, I invited people to come to join us as the volunteers. Some companies provided tools, the shovels, and the wheelbarrows. So people were coming and pouring, and coal miners. And very soon, more and more soil was removed, and more, as you're going to realize later, concrete blocks were exposed. So we started sending samples from those blocks to different institutes for materials. For example, Politecnico di Torino in Turin, Italy, Geopolymer Institute in France, Professor Joseph Davidovits, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Bosnia, and they all told us it was artificially made concrete. What does that mean? You have shape of the pyramid, you have perfect orientation, and now you have artificially made concrete everywhere we dig. Obviously, it's pyramidal structure. It is so logical. So I was expecting now, with so many proofs, this cultural establishment will start backing me up and they're going to support our efforts. But nothing like that happened. Once they realized that they were wrong in the beginning, claiming there is nothing there, signing the petition, now they become even more nervous. They started hating us because we proved them wrong in front of the public and their students and the media, and they kept attacking us, but they had some very powerful tools. For example, the State Commission for the National Monument Preservation. So they had a resolution of that commission that the whole pyramid had to be claimed as the protected monument, not because of the pyramid, but because of a very small medieval fortress that's been in ruins for 500 years now. And we were working 450 meters away at the base. They're saying, no, everything is protected. Everything was part of this medieval little fortress. It was nonsense. It was obvious. But this is what they, presented to the people and to the media. So eventually I had to stop digging at the Sun Pyramid the first year, but we still had a lot of material to show to the world, to the public, and we have still those sections, we call them trenches or sondas. They are still open for public. Later on, we did buy some properties. They are a little more below. Why is that important? 80% of the pyramid is state property and 20% private. So we purchased some of the private lands, and this is where we continued digging. But anyway, that was a story about the Sun Pyramid and how the cultural establishment reacted, and it was very, very disappointing for me. But then very soon I realized how the archaeology functioned. It's not about the science, it is about the politics, not only in Bosnia, but everywhere else in the world. Egypt, we know, Zahi Hawass and other politicians in science who want to keep the status quo, who want to keep us in dark, with information hidden. Whatever is important, it is confidential, and so on and so forth.
I remember in our introduction interview, you talked about how every establishment on the planet was suddenly against you. Wikipedia, the Smithsonian, and on it went. So you have to have very, very broad shoulders to begin a a project like this.
And they still are, Freya, they
Getting
still
broader.
are. Wikipedia, and since AI is based on Wikipedia and some other sources, AI is now against us. There is nothing there. Is geological formation. Scientists have concluded, blah, blah, blah. Now, they still treat us as this is doctor. They don't even call me doctor by title. They say Sam Osmanagich claim. They don't even assign the status of project. But guess what? This is not a claim. Claim is when you claim something, you write the book and you claim something. In our case, it's a 20-year project. And so far, we've had more than 700,000 business hours. It has become the most active archaeological site in the world. 20 archaeological trenches on the Sun Pyramid, 65 trenches on the Moon Pyramid, dozens of trenches on Dragon and the Love Pyramid, on the tumulus in the village of Ratnica, and of course, underground tunnel network. What we have proven through the archaeology and then through other sciences is that we have a huge complex, at least 6 pyramids. I suspect there are many more smaller buildings that got destroyed during the deluge or the end of the last ice age and huge tsunamis and the biblical floods and so on. Then we have 2 tumuli, and then so far we have discovered 7 entrances to the prehistorical underground tunnels, and we have cleared, cleaned, and protected for the visitors 3.5 kilometers of those underground tunnels. Why am I saying so many kilometers? Because I realized when, for example, Mexican archaeologists discovered tunnels under the Sun, Moon, or Quetzalcoatl pyramids in Teotihuacan, 50 meters or 100 meters. This is the world sensation. When they discovered tunnels under pyramids in Palenque, the Mayan site in state of Chiapas, 100 meters. This is sensation. When they discovered tunnels under Peruvian pyramids, tens of meters, sensation. In China, well, nobody talks about those, or Egypt, they have tunnels. These are big stuff. We have kilometers, and anybody can go there. We don't have stuff that are off the limits. We don't have confidentials. You go to Egypt, every other site, every other, 10, 15 meters, oh, it's confidential. You cannot go there. Why confidential? The cultural heritage, Egyptian pyramids, Chinese, Bosnian, Mexican, Peruvian, they belong to all of us. They don't belong to Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities or British elites or archaeologists from Mexico, Peru, or China. They belong to all of us. There should not be secrets. If something is discovered that it is much older than what we are taught in schools, that it was done by more advanced civilizations, it should not be hidden from us. On the contrary, we should learn from them.
It's interesting. I mean, I've done a reasonable amount of travel in my life, and I would say, as a person who's been through a spiritual awakening, one of the things I experienced going through that awakening was actually opening an art book called Art Forms when I was studying fashion and textile design and multimedia and fine arts in another lifetime, this lifetime. And as I was going through this Kundalini awakening, you'd call it, I was being guided, as you said, like by the magic hand that takes you from place to place around the world. And it was guiding me to open this book, and it took me to the Font de Gaume and Les in France. And I remember when I actually went to Font de Gaume, and when I entered that cave where the bison or the bison are painted by, they say, a Paleolithic humanoid civilization from around 20,000 years ago. And I was in that cave looking as the light was revealed. I wept, my heart opened, and tears came silently from my eyes as I stood there, and they talked about how this cave was formed and all of the shapes, yet the bison was in perfect geometry, perfect shape. But we can't even do that now in art school. You can't even draw that. An artist just will struggle to do that on a two-dimensional piece of paper, let alone on a three-dimensional cave. And I think, you know, there's something to be said about these experiences that we have, as you say, you know, the hand that guides us, that there's something that moves us, yes, our soul, our spirit. We've touched on that in our introductory interview. And perhaps our genealogy, our cellular memory, and perhaps where we have walked before.
Correct. We remember.
We remember. So it's powerful. All of these experiences are powerful once your heart opens. And it's interesting what we'll call it source will. And here you are. How and what, and it's interesting because when the source wants something so much, and that magnetism, that vortex of energy begins, and people are then pulled, as you say. You've had countless thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are experts, who are volunteers, and who are guests, who have come and participated in the rebirthing of that life force energy that the Bosnian pyramid is freely giving to Earth and to all of us all of the time. So it may take time in the linear perspective to get around the red tape of the elites. However, you're doing it, have done it extraordinarily well. And when did that really take off? I know you said like you bought some private land and then you were able to continue digging. But now it evolved so much. So many people.
2005, it was a one-man show.
Yeah.
Starting 2006, we have our foundation as the legal body, and everything's turning around the foundation, inviting everyone, because it has become the most open archaeological project in the world. And literally, we had thousands of volunteers. Just in the last 17 years, 4,450 of them from 64 countries and 6 continents. We've had hundreds of experts from different fields. You know, in the world of science, and now we're talking about archaeology, the way you operate, you start with the hypothesis. So I had my hypothesis. We have pyramids, they're artificial structures. We have several of them. The next step, you start archaeological excavation. Then you open it up for different sciences. You know, it is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary scientific project, classical sciences, you know, archaeology, Egyptology, geology, and so on. But then high tech is very important because through high tech, you can scan the area, you can, see through, geothermal analysis telling you where the passageways and internal chambers are, then georadar, then dating and so on. But then with the physicists, engineers, we started measuring certain energy phenomena. So it has become a huge project. And so the first step, hypothesis. The second step, you start your work, field research, measurements, analysis. The third step, you start bringing experts from the outside, independent or from different institutions. The next step, when you have enough material, you organize international scientific conference. And guess what? We have had 8 such conferences with 115 people For example, our first scientific conference on Bosnian pyramids was in August of 2008 with 55 experts, 20 leading Egyptian archaeologists, Egyptologists, geologists, among them Dean of the Faculty of Archaeology, University of Cairo, the biggest archaeological faculty in the world, University of Ain Shams, the second largest, University of Alexandria. So we had top people in the field. We had Chinese archaeologists who, for the first time, came out of China to talk about the Chinese pyramids. We had people from 18 different countries. Conclusion of the conference was, this is not a geological phenomenon, but archaeological. So this is the real archaeological site. It was the first. We had 7 more conferences. For example, a conference from the last year, I've invited only 10 physicists and engineers. For example, Professor Korotkov, University of St. Petersburg from Russia, geophysicist. And then we have Jasper Johansen, nuclear physicist from Denmark. We had Heikki Saulainen, sound engineers from Italy. We had engineer Gogo Marjanovic from Serbia, telecommunication engineers, nuclear physicists, and so on. So those people came with their set of instruments, 5, 7, 8 instruments. So they were doing measurements at the same time, but independently from each other. For example, we were walking from the base of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun towards the top. Conclusion, we have energy field, 28 kilohertz, the same frequency, but the signal was getting stronger. So in voltage, stronger and stronger. By the time we got to the top, the signal was the strongest. Conclusion, the pyramid acts as the energy amplifier. What does the pyramid amplify? Well, below the Sun Pyramid in Bosnia, we have iron plate. Iron generates electromagnetic field. Pyramid pulls this field up, amplifying it. We have measured, we have proven that. And then through the top, sending the drone with several different instruments, oscilloscopes, spectrometers, EMF, and the others. We were measuring electrical field, magnetic field, electromagnetism, ultrasound, infrasound, orgone energy, temperature. Our conclusion, from the top, we have energy beam, 4.5 meter diameter, which expands to 20, coming back 4.5, 20, 4.5, 20. It is electrical and ultrasound in origin. It's getting stronger as it moves away from the pyramid. In science, it is called scalar waves or non-Hertzian fields or Tesla's energy. So this is what we call science. So this is the regular step in scientific proofs. So that step was scientific conferences with the results of independent researchers. And the last step, writing and publishing peer-reviewed scientific articles. So far, I have 33 of them, and they've been published in double-blind, peer-reviewed international journals from the US, UK, Germany, and India. So we have respected all scientific steps. So scientific community, it's not a community, but these are independent researchers or some institutions, archaeological and the others. Instead of them giving us and showing us respect to what we do, respecting all the scientific steps, they're still saying nothing there, don't go there, don't give them money, don't give them any attention. It's all natural geological. It is just the claim by this guy, Osmanagich, who's not an archaeologist. Of course, I'm not an anthropologist, which is much, much wider. If I was an archaeologist, probably I would never conclude that these were the pyramids. So this is, I know that you wanted to talk to some of those, issues, how people receive, but what we do, everything we do, actually, we do for the future. We do it right. We do it properly. And tomorrow, when you have some open-minded scientists, when they take all the arguments, hey, this guy had scientific conferences, but he had some very powerful voices against people who were head of European Archaeological Association, who never came to Bosnia, but he claimed there is nothing there. But hey, you have 150 scientists who were there doing the measurements, so who's right? Or this guy Osmanagich, he published 33, or tomorrow it will be 40 or 50 or 60 scientific articles that are well argumented and they are peer-reviewed, and none of his critics can publish a single peer-reviewed article. So what we're going to do now? So like I said, we are doing it for today and for the future. And these people, they wanted to stop the science, they wanted to stop the truth. This is their problem.
Well, we couldn't have these conversations 20 years ago very openly. I mean, it was so, the mire was so thick. It was like wading through quicksand almost. So it's a completely different world. And all of the work you and others in your similar multidisciplinary approaches, and even myself, and, through the healing work I've done, it was always multidisciplinary. Because we're not just a body, we are all of these different parts and they function independently yet interconnectedly, so it's the same. And I'm excited to be in this time so we can actually talk about these things. So you mentioned scalar waves before. So what is it that you have found that the Bosnian pyramid of the sun actually does, and the complex and the other pyramids around? How does it work?
Yes. So our conclusion, Bosnian pyramids, energy amplifiers. Which energies they amplify? I mentioned the first source, electromagnetism. The second one, we have underground water flow. Water moves, releases negative ions. Pyramid amplifies the concentration of beneficial negative ions. How do we know? Because we measure using air ion counter. We have two of them, US-made instruments, concentrations under the pyramids, in the tunnels, the biggest of the planet. The next one, there is one more underground water flow, 55 meters below the ground. Between the two, there is a charge, voltage, electricity, pyramid pulls it up, electrical field going through the top, and this is what we measured. The next one, quartz crystal. A lot of it we discovered while excavating the Sun Pyramid and clearing the tunnels. Quartz crystal has the ability, number one, to amplify the energy, number two, to transform the energy from one form, in our case, electromagnetism, to another one, ultrasound. The same frequency, 28 kilohertz, through the process known as the piezoelectrical effect. So these are the type of energies that the pyramid amplifies. The next logical question, what this energy can be used for? Well, the first one, non-Hertzian waves or scalar waves. According to Tesla and his genius work from 125 years back, and in the last 50 years, Russian physicists, non-Hertzian waves move quicker than the speed of light. Or more precisely, information within non-Hertzian waves move quicker than the speed of light. The logical conclusion, the first potential purpose of pyramid energy is the communication device. The second one, the one that you just mentioned, people go to the tunnels under the Bosnian Valley of the pyramids. Now, if you go to the closed space under the ground, for example, you go to the coal mine, after 20, 50 meters, you cannot breathe normally because of lack of oxygen. But in our case, it's different. Deeper you go, you breathe better and better. Not logical, especially because we have only one entrance to those tunnels. So it is the closed system, but there is an airflow. How did they manage to do that? Well, the tunnels are not the same height, but they go up and down, up and down. So, they go to 4 meters, and 3, and 2, and 1, and 1.5, and 2, and 3, and up, and up, And different height makes different pressure. If you have low ceiling, it's stronger pressure to move the air through. If it is high ceiling, the pressure is weaker. So you have strong and weak and strong and weak. And of course, the different pressure makes the air move. If you have one tunnel, it is like you place the fan and you are pushing the air. But when you have hundreds of them and we have a huge labyrinth under the ground, you have constant flow of the air. The same temperature everywhere, 13 degrees, the same humidity everywhere, about 74%. So those ancients were so smart, they knew make a system. Yes. And people who have respiratory problems, asthma, for example, they go to the tunnels, they breathe so well that after a few times in the tunnels, they don't need inhaler, air pump no more. People with a high blood pressure, it gets normalized. People with a high sugar in the blood, it drops for many points. People with the pains, most cases pains are gone. People with the very serious diseases, tumors and so on, we can follow excellent improvement in their health. Now, even though we always say that our foundation is not in the healing business, we don't give medical guarantees. But what we do, we measure. We use the scientific instruments. We have measured 10 different energy properties, and they're all measurable. First 5, absence of all harmful radiations, no cosmic radiations, harmful, no natural radioactivity, using Geiger-Miller counter, no geopathogenic radiations, underground water flows, no signal for the mobile phones, no signal for the Wi-Fi. Right now, you and I, we are exposed to all those bad radiations. They are attacking our body. Our body cells are fighting those enemies 24 hours a day. In the tunnels, no enemies. For the first time in our life, body cells can start doing their job. What is their job? To start the regeneration process, to start the detoxification process. These are first 5 energy properties. The second 5, the best frequency of electromagnetism, 28 kilohertz. Number 7, the best frequency of the ultrasound, also 28 kilohertz. In science, it is called the levitation frequency. People feel light. Number 8, very low frequency, 7.83 hertz. In science, it is called the original Schumann resonance. Number 9, very high level of orgone energy. Thanks to Raymond Rife and his work on orgone energy and instruments, we have a new instruments today made in the US. You measure orgone level or life energy, or in Eastern traditions, prana or chi, on a scale from 0 to 100%. Our cities contaminated, 20%. Our villages, 50%. Bosnian pyramid tunnels, 100%. That was number 9. And number 10, the highest concentration of beneficial negative ions. They clean our body from the microbes, from viruses, bacteria, fungi. You put those 10 elements together. So what do we have in the tunnel? We have the safest and the healthiest place on the planet. So our second purpose of pyramid energy is so logical: to protect what is the most precious to us, our health.
I'm coming to live in Sissoko.
Yes.
I am.
Well, once you visit us in June, probably, yes, you will buy the property here. Number 3, the most important liquid in our life, water. We discovered 5 open tunnels with the water. We analyzed the water, comparing to our city water, which is energetically dead because it's been treated with the poisons. Chlorine, fluoride. We have traces of heavy metals. We have microplastic in our city water. It makes us sick during our life. And it's deformed when you freeze it and when you look at it through electronic microscope. Bosnian pyramid water on the other side. No treatments by chlorine, fluoride, or anything else. It vibrates high. It has hexagonal, beautiful hexagonal molecular structure, crystal-like structure. You can see it's a happy water. It's high vibrating water. And we are what we drink. This water has been exposed to the pyramid energy for so long. Our conclusion number 3, pyramid energy was used to improve the molecular structure of the water. Number 4, food. We done experiment with the seeds of beans. We put a bag with the seeds home, control group, one in the tunnels and one on the top of the pyramid. We got it back in 15 days and planted in our park. The pyramid beans were growing 3 times quicker, richer, healthier. Pyramid energy affects everything. It affects DNA of plants, of animals, of humans, water, stone. Stone vibrates also. So, conclusion number 4, pyramid energy was used to improve the molecular structure of food. Number 5, during the Corona project, 2020-2022, they were telling us vaccine is solution for everything. Well, guess what? Vaccinated or non-vaccinated, everybody was getting sick. And then the question is immunity. Going to the tunnels raises your immunity, number 5. Number 6, being exposed to the pyramid energy, you start developing your spiritual senses. You can start feeling the energy. You can start seeing the energy. You can start seeing the colors of the energy after prolonged exposure, of course. And maybe we can start developing other spiritual abilities like telekinesis, moving objects with the power of our mind, or exchanging thoughts, telepathy, or moving through space and time, astral projections, and the movement of our soul. So, to conclude, what we have proven in Bosnia is revolutionary change of the narrative. Pyramids were not built for one dead body, king or the pharaoh. They do not belong to the past. Pyramids were built for the present and for the future. They were built for the living communities, for everything from water, food, communication, meditation, spirituality, everything. That's why we need to research pyramids. And this is what we have proven in little Bosnia, the poorest country in Europe.
Thank you for revolutionizing the whole narrative around pyramids and their purpose, Dr. Sam. And
Welcome.
Two things. You spoke about the shape of the tunnels, how they move in a wave formation. Well,
yes,
that is interesting. I understand all of the different aspects that it creates with the humidity and the temperature regularity and so on. But do you have little insight for us on what is that wave formation that they're working with in terms of sonics, or, how is that? What is that? How does that look when you translate it down into other disciplines?
Done huge amount of work because all the tunnels were filled with the filler materials, pebbles, rocks, and sand. And then they were building dry stone walls every 10 meters. Every section they would fill up with the material, and then they build a wall. Another section, wall, another section, wall. So systematically, they have closed all the tunnels. When we're thinking about it, if we are today to close the entrance to the tunnels, we bring the dynamite, we blew everything up, and then so much stones and rocks, and that's it. But somebody wanted to make sure to close all the tunnels. There has to be a big reason. When we started back in 2006-07, we thought maybe 50 or 100 meters are filled, and then later on, we're going to find the open sections. Well, we did find a few open sections, but still, after it is open, then again, it's closed. It's filled with the filler material. So somebody went through huge construction project to close all the tunnels. So 2 civilizations. The first one who built this huge network, the second one who closed it. Now, those who built it, I mentioned that we have cleared 3.5 kilometers so far. I suspect that originally we had 100 kilometers of those prehistorical tunnels, not in one level. So far we discovered 2 levels, but maybe 5, 6, 7 levels. So to answer your question, I would need to open more tunnels to realize, what was the master plan when they were building those tunnels? And then, we do tunnels today for the communication. You send the car, you connect the towns and cities with the roads. If they wanted to connect two structures below the ground, then you build one or two tunnels. You don't build a labyrinth. And this is where we come to your question, why labyrinth? Well, we know from Feng Shui or Feng Shui that river flows, it flows like this, curvatures. It doesn't flow just straight for hundreds of kilometers. This is how the energy flow. When you have one straight tunnel, there is no energy flow. But when you have tunnels next to each one, rounded tunnels, labyrinth, there is an energy flow, and energy is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So it seems to me that the tunnels were used to feed the pyramid with the energy. So this huge network was built. It was all about the energy. Why am I saying that? When we started measuring some energy phenomena back in 2010, for example, the highest concentration of negative ions was 18,400 negative ions per cubic centimeter. This is very high, actually, because the forests, the mountains, it's about 1,000, 1,500, 700. Our cities, 100. Our homes, 20 or 30. So having 1,000 on the mountains, it's very healthy. But 18,000 in the Bosnian pyramid tunnels, we were stunned. Wow, this is wonderful. But as we clean more tunnels, the concentration are getting higher and higher and higher, reaching 100,000, February 2024, 340,000, by far the highest on the planet. So it tells me the more tunnels we open and clean, energy properties are getting stronger. The same frequency, for example, electromagnetism, but it is stronger within the frequency. So I would say the closer we come to the pyramid, energy will be becoming stronger and stronger, and it will in a way clean us on our physical and mental and energy level. So once we get close to the pyramid, so probably that will help us, not only us, but maybe the whole world, to raise the global consciousness. So I think it has something to do with the, different energy aspects and spiritual aspect and physical aspect also. So it's amazing, and how lucky we are. If we are like Egyptian or Peruvians or Mexicans, they found the tunnels also, but for them it's just archaeological phenomena. They don't do any energy measurements, so they cannot fathom what would be effects to human body. But in our case, we've been measuring. We purchased an instrument, it's called BioWell, from our good friend, Professor Konstantin Korotko. BioWell measures our bioenergy field, or known as the auric field, the chakras, their position and how open they are, then stress level and the energy in the cells. It's very important to fight diseases. So with these instruments, in the last 10 years, we have measured, how many people before and after the tunnel? 14,000. I mean, if you measure 20 people, it will tell you, something, you're going to get some good information. 50 or 100, well, 100, it is, statistically significant amount. But 14,000. So what is our conclusion? Auric field, in the case of 90% of the people, is much better. And we have units in joules for how much it is better. Our chakras, because of the stress or stressful way of living, the chakras of people, they're not in balance. They are to the left, to the right. They are small, they are closed because of the fears, because of this and that. Going to the tunnels, they go back to the balance and they open up. And when energy flows better through our chakras, we are healthier, among other things, because this energy affects our blood circulation, affects our mental body, our emotional body, and so on. Or the stress level. 90% or 95% of the people, their stress was much lower after coming back from the tunnels. So this place is special. Like I said, we measure some energy properties, but who knows how many others that we don't know they exist? We don't have scientific equipment to measure those phenomena. So this project has become also the most exciting project in the world of archaeology because we are so open. Sometimes people come up with some ideas. They bring their own equipment, their own instruments. They do measurements also. It's not like in Egypt that they forbid everything. You cannot go there. You cannot take camera. You cannot measure this. You cannot do nothing. In our case, everybody is welcome under one condition, that they share results with us so we can share them with the world. Isn't that the common sense? Isn't that the way how every archaeological project should function?
It's how everyone in society should function.
Yes, correct.
To come back to what you were saying about the frequency. Now, it's interesting, for having worked with energy medicine and studying thoughts, emotions, beliefs, their vibrations, and so on for forever. You may be familiar with Dr. David Hawkins' vibrational scale of consciousness, and that talks about a level of 200, where if you're vibrating at anything lower than that, then you're in fear and guilt and shame and blame, and you're poisoning yourself. The minute you move beyond that, you're just shifting to a point, and it's a tricky point because, you just pop your head over that and you start to open a little bit, but then you can beat yourself with a big stick back down to where it's safe, or you can then continue to grow into the higher frequencies all the way up to ineffability, So the process of shifting our consciousness through the vortices and vortexes of the energy field is a huge, it's an enormous process to get out of your own solar plexus and even begin to know what it means to live from your heart and to be following your purpose, your higher purpose. It's like, from everything you're speaking to, it's like the Bosnian pyramid complex it feels to me, my experience in working with alchemy, with energy, and all of the disciplines within that we're talking about a structure and a complex that is designed to pull people up in frequency so that they can experience another way of being in themselves. It's literally almost like it transforms them like a butterfly. And permanently and lastingly in many cases, even from disease to well-being, depending upon, of course, a person's karma, their life blueprint, and I'm sure many other things. So as you say, no guarantees in anything of that nature, even healing sessions, So I find that an extraordinary intelligence that could conceive of, design, and create with natural materials from the area such a gift, and that it enhances the well-being not only of the people but the earth itself. It has to. The other thing that I'll just hark back to quickly is the piezoelectricity aspect of things, because look, I've worked with crystals for a very long time, and one of the things that we do with crystals is we program them. Of course, intention with everything is very important too. So clearly, if we were, to look at the Bosnian pyramid complex, we'd say it was created, I would say it was created with an intention for good, and the high quartz content, yes, it's an amplifier, but it's programmable, hence computers, radios, phones, etc., etc. May I ask, have you ever played with programming the energies, and does it make a difference in the readings, or is that yet to come?
It's yet to come.
Oh,
However,
exciting.
uh, you know, when I started, people thought that this was an archaeological project, but it is not. A long time ago, Tesla said that you want to find out the secrets of the universe, you need to view them through energy, frequency, vibration. And that's exactly what the pyramids are. They amplify natural energy sources, energy, creating very specific frequencies, beneficial frequencies, affecting our vibrational level. When we think about our life, what our life is about, well, I spent 25 years in the States. This is the society of the consumerism.
Mm.
More you make, more you're going to have, bigger house, bigger mortgage, bigger car, bigger, 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 bigger. You grab, 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 grab. You come to your 60s, 70s, 80s. What was your life about? About grabbing. It leaves you empty. Our life is about sharing. Our life is about, giving. Our life is about learning. Our life is about fulfilling yourself. Our life is about being loved and loved. Our life is about high vibrations. So energy, frequency, and vibrations, and we see pyramid energy affecting eventually our vibrations and vibrations of everything nearby. So I think that we really bring a revolution in a way how we perceive the energy and how the pyramids functions. Of course, in the next episode, we will be talking more about elements of sacred geometry, which helps the whole system to function better and to amplify the energy of the environment. But I think for today, that should be really enough that people start, contemplating that pyramids belong to our future.
Indeed, they do. I'm excited to dive deeper with you, Dr. Sam. It's always an honor and a pleasure. I'm sure everyone's mind is boggled, and they may need to watch this interview again, both the last one and this one and the original, just to let it sink in a little deeper and to really contemplate what this wisdom that is in form, held in form for a very, 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 very long time, has done, is doing, and could potentially do for humanity, for the earth, and for nature in aeons to come. Thank you so much for joining us again, and I can't wait till our next interview. See you then.
Thank you.